Welcome to the SENSEability Webinar presented by the National Lekotek Center, made possible by PlayAbility Toys. The morethanplay.com website and the National Lekotek Center have partnered together to present a webinar focusing on engaging sensory products and enticing play ideas. The National Lekotek Center is a nonprofit organization that provides an array of services to improve the lives of children with special needs through the utilization of toys and play. Since 1980, Lekotek Centers across the United States offer therapeutic play-based family sessions for families of children with disabilities structured to help them learn, develop, and thrive in a world that presents them with many unique and complex challenges. Toys and play are the vehicles used to provide children with an understanding and an ability to relate to the world around them. Play is also utilized to increase interactions within the family, especially between siblings and the community as a whole. The mission of More Than Play is to continually enhance product offerings to supply developing children with the best fun and functional toys. Through the products offered, More Than Play hopes that playtime will become much more than play. This webinar will provide practical information related to sensory play and child development for parents and professionals alike. This content can be utilized as a basis to establish an understanding of the need for sensory toys and play and the importance of providing children with sensory-enriched play encounters, particularly in early stages of life. Sensory experiences affect children cognitively through their memory, emotionally through their mood, and the more sensory stimuli layered into an event, the deeper the impression made on children and their learning. This webinar will explore what sensory is all about, why it's so important, what to look for in toys and play products, and provide you with some research and trends on the hot topic of sensory. MoreThanPlay.com is a hub for parents, teachers, therapists, and clinicians to locate the best sensory and educational toys on the market. More Than Play partners with distinguished manufacturers in the educational and sensory toy space. One of the main line of products that will be discussed in this webinar are PlayAbility Toys products, distributed by MoreThanPlay.com. What is sensory? Sensory is when one or more of the five senses is engaged in an experience through seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and/or smelling. As human beings, these five different tracks of information come into our brains, and together these senses create our own individual experiences. Why is sensory important to child development? Sensory experiences give children input to help them understand, interpret, and relate to the world around them. We are born hardwired to receive sensory input from birth. One of the best examples of this sensory exploration can be witnessed when babies want to, and try to, and actually put everything into their mouths. They are actually using their mouths to trigger sensory responses to help them figure things out. Smell and taste are the most powerful at birth, and hearing fully matures at 1 month, while sight develops gradually over the first year. To understand how the senses all work together, let's explore all of our sensory experiences that happen within your body automatically when you walk up the stairs with your morning cup of coffee. Visually, you see the stairs and begin to lift your foot in order to move up the stairs. This involves your gross motor skills and provides you with the proprioceptive and vestibular input as well as tactile input from holding on to a wooden railing and grasping a hot mug of coffee. The smell of the coffee is noticed as it's steaming under your nose, and you may hear voices of your kids, the morning news on TV, the shower running. Each sense is called into play and is necessary for successful completion of walking up the stairs with a cup of coffee, or maybe it's just the coffee that's helping you walk up the stairs, as everything we do is received through sensory messages that are constantly being interpreted. By encouraging kids to talk about what they are observing and sensing, we encourage kids to develop their language skills as well as cognitive abilities relating to the experience. You can think of sensory play as a continual science project for kids. Powered by their natural curiosity, kids want to investigate things, whether it's putting stuff in their mouth when they are infants or taking toys apart when they're older. They're investigating internal questions like, what is it? How does it work? Where is the sound coming from? Does it float? How does it taste? Do I like its smell? Do I like the feel or the texture of this? This exercise in scientific inquiry often goes undetected by parents and caregivers, but little brains are taking this information in and making sense of the world around them. Sensory stimulation allows many things for kids to explore. It allows kids to explore new things like textures and sounds. That's why kids love sandboxes and the beach. Assist them in understanding objects, like how to estimate the trajectory of a ball in order to catch it. It helps them interpret experiences, like the way pretend play with a puppet can get a child to open up and express emotions not usually shared. Stimulates memory. Taking in layers of sensory input or multisensory input helps the mind better recall the experience later. Studies show that products that have a pleasing smell sell better, and customers don't even realize it. Shampoo companies claim the fragrance is the most important ingredient in the product, and stores use music to increase the sales of their products. It facilitates the collection of data. The more senses the experience something, the deeper the neural pathway made in the brain referencing that experience. That's why they tell you to bake fresh cookies if you're having an open house to help visitors remember it better. It accelerates learning. Teachers recommend taking notes at lectures so that the information is filed both in the auditory and kinesthetic, like your tactile input from writing it out, parts of the brain. Then if you read those notes later, you will have the information filed visually too. It develops the sense that they are using. Exposure to more sensory experience helps that sense develop, especially in young children. That's why child development experts encourage playing music and reading to kids and looking at storybook pictures even when they are babies. Sensory stimulation creates body awareness, the balance and movement that takes sensory integration skills and are achieved by a combination of tactile feedback, motor coordination, and visual processing. It can calm and soothe. Most children have a sensory process that calms them. Think about how a little child might use a pacifier or carry around their blanket to feel comfortable and confident. It can stimulate and excite. Sounds, lights, movement. Those can all get a child energized and wake them up like jumping on a trampoline or playing fun music. Sensory stimulation sends signals to the brain that help to strengthen neural pathways. Once formed, these pathways are then available for all types of learning. For example, when a child explores things tactily with their hands like clay, water, or pebbles, they are laying the groundwork for being able to identify objects by touch. The sensory signature of these items, such as rough, warm, or wet, are registering in the brain, and this is the first step in classification of sorting skills that kids need later. Sensory play. It's when children take in information when playing on 5 different tracks: image, sound, smell, taste, and touch. These tracks are always crossing over each other during play, and they each contain more data than you can imagine, and they have a direct bearing on how kids experience life. In fact, our entire understanding of the world comes to us via our senses, and they link to our memory and our emotions in a profound way. For example, when a child touches something and can smell it at the same time, their ability to remember cognitively has more than doubled because they have taken in the experience by 2 or more senses. Manufacturers like PlayAbility Toys have done an incredible job in overlaying the senses in play experiences. For example, a simple crinkle sound when a toy is touched adds to the influence of the experience. Research shows that sensory play builds nerve connections in the brain's pathways, which lead to the child's ability to complete more complex learning tasks. Every time you add a sensory element to an experience, it penetrates deeper cognitively. It will trigger emotions, and it will be better recalled in memory. Children and adults learn best and retain the most information when they engage their senses. Many of our favorite memories are associated with 1 or more of our senses. For instance, the smell of a summer night campfire, or a song you connect to a wedding or a happy memory. When your nose and ears are stimulated with those familiar smells and sounds, your brain triggers a flashback memory to those special times. To understand sensory play, you have to understand 2 elements that affect how a child relates to their senses. The 2 elements of sensory play in child development are sensory preferences and sensory processes. Kids have individual sensory preferences and process sensory input differently. If you combine both sensory preferences with sensory processes in the right portions, they make up an ideal sensory diet. Sensory play is play that encourages this exploration, giving children toys to help them to focus, explore, engage, activate, and be delighted by one or more of their 5 senses of sight, sound, touch, taste, or smell. By creating sensory-rich play environments, we are allowing kids to learn through experience and for children to engage their senses in a meaningful way in order to learn and grow. What is a sensory preference? Well, it's exactly that. It's a preference, a favorite, something you're partial to, a certain way you like things. Every person has preferences regarding the sensory input they choose to rely on most when interpreting information. Most children develop a dominant as well as an auxiliary or secondary sensory preference. Sensory preferences are the way kids prefer to take in information from the outside world. A good example to elaborate on sensory preference is to relate back to school or sitting through a training. When you're learning, do you need to take notes to remember the information? Do you simply listen to the teacher or presenter? Do you like to see a PowerPoint or follow the book as lessons are taught? Do you need to fidget with something or tap your foot? These examples align with the 4 areas of visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile learning listed on the chart. Visual learners prefer seeing what they're learning, utilizing pictures, images, graphs, and colors rather than reading text. Auditory learners prefer spoken messages to process information. This can be through someone else's voice or through a recording of their own voice. Maybe music or made-up songs will help hone learning. Kinesthetic learners work best by simply incorporating movement and activity into their studying and learning or everyday tasks. Tactile learners are very similar to kinesthetic learners in that incorporating movement or utilizing sense of touch to explore while learning will help reinforce the content. Hands-on tasks in school like chemistry and science or arts and crafts allow this learner to manipulate and engage with the content they are learning. Most people, including you, probably have a sensory preference whether you are aware of it or not. A lot of people identify their preference for learning with visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or tactile because it helps them excel in their everyday tasks. For example, I happen to be an auditory learner. Once I hear something, it's locked into my brain, whereas my associate, who helped me do the graphics for this webinar, is a visual learner. She understands things better when she sees it visually. Other people need to experience it through their body. These people think better when they walk, run, or just move. Think about Goldie Hawn in the First Wives Club movie. On the treadmill. That's where her best ideas came from, when she was walking on the treadmill. Sensory processing is the way sensory signals from taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell come into the brain and then get organized into appropriate responses. Sometimes kids have sensory sensitivities that prevent them from receiving certain sensory information correctly, which can stop them from performing a task or may trigger inappropriate actions. If sensory responses are interrupting everyday tasks, a condition known as sensory processing disorder may be diagnosed. You can think of sensory processing as how kids interpret or digest sights, sounds, tastes, textures, and smells. Touch. Do they love or do they hate the feeling of different textures like sand or manipulatives like Play-Doh, GAC, or putty? Sight. Do they enjoy maps and pictures? Taste. Is the child willing to try new foods or do they spit things out immediately and stick to the same old mac and cheese? Smell. Do they notice smells? Is that chocolate on mom's breath? Do I have fresh sheets on my bed? Sound. Do they thrive on loud noises or music? To understand these 2 sensory development theories of preferences and processes, preference is what kids like, and process is how bodies digest the senses. Why is sensory important? Well, Diane Ackerman states, there is no way in which to understand the world without first detecting it through the radar net of our senses. That statement alone is justification to involve our children in sensory play. Ackerman strikes at the heart of the importance of sensory play, especially for children, and perhaps even more so for children with disabilities. Sensory input gives children a way to both interpret and relate to the world around them. Clinical experience and developmental research reveal the importance of environmental stimulation on children's social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development, according to the National Research Council. Sad examples of the impact of sensory deprivation have shown that children need this input for survival and successful development. Research has also revealed that the more senses layered into a play experience, the more impact and learning can occur for the child. By adding auditory elements along with the visual, the learning from a play experience gets locked deeper into young brains. As human beings, we take in information on 5 tracks: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. These tracks are jammed with data coming in, and we are more receptive to the information with every additional track that comes in. Experts estimate that there are 50 receptors per 100 square millimeters, each containing 640,000 microreceptors in our brains dedicated to our senses. Basically, kids need their senses to thrive, especially kids with special needs. Again, we will look to Diane Ackerman. We live on the leash of our senses, so make sure your child has enough length to explore. Sensory solutions. Finding age-appropriate, affordable toys can be a major challenge for parents and providers giving services to children with special needs. We're going to explore PlayAbility Toys products and share their focus on designing quality products that support the families, clinicians, and educators who are devoted to helping children with disabilities. PlayAbility's vision is to see that all individuals have the opportunity to laugh, learn, play, and grow through an enriching experience with exceptional toys. The first product was produced because of a mom on a mission. Her son Jacob had special needs. He was born without eyes, and she wanted a gentleman dabbling in inventing toys named Bud to build a ball that gave him the ability to play. And that is how PlayAbility came to life. Jacob's mom had high standards for Bud to create the perfect ball, insisting it bounce and roll, what balls do best, but not too far so he couldn't reach it. Then she added it needed to be lightweight so people and furniture would not get hurt. Oh, and it had to make noise so Jacob could easily locate it, and she preferred low-tech, meaning no batteries or electronics. From the desire of a mom to provide her son who had a visual impairment with the fun, joy, and benefits of playing with a ball, a company was born. We are going to dive into the sensory elements of toys, PlayAbility products, as well as provide you with some ideas for successful play. Many toys take into account the 4 sensory preferences of visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile learning. Some of the elements to consider for visual toys: toys with pictorial instructions, online demonstrations, interactive websites, extra drawings or graphics of ideas to inspire creativity other than the box, bright colors and color contrast, which are specifically helpful for kiddos with visual impairments or need help with focus during play. Auditory: crinkling in baby toys, rattle sounds, recording devices, toys that provide verbal prompts or directions. The examples for kinesthetic and tactile learners can be interchanged and overlapped based on learning style and the appropriateness for the environment and setting. So some elements to kinesthetic toys would be for these perpetual movers, toys that require activity or movement, dramatic play, tactile learning experiences, sports and athletic toys. Tactile could be fidget toys or stress balls, blocks and construction sets, any manipulatives like Play-Doh, arts and crafts, science kits. Other items that can help kinesthetic and tactile learners are weighted items or vibrating pens to help them with that sensory input through proprioception, the pressure on their joints and muscles to help them focus. With sensory input, it is important to remember that the intensity, duration, and location all impact the child's ability to process. Before we dive into the PlayAbility toys, we want to share some ideas with you on successful play planning. Toys and play products are secondary to play. If you can start with the right dynamics, it will be a positive experience for all involved. Normally, you would think that the play products are leading play, but you really need to take into account the preferences and processes of the child first, then look into the 3 areas of play: environment, adaptations, and playtime. Play inherently needs to be child-led, but it also needs to be guided. There is a distinct difference between guiding and leading. For example, at work, if it's too loud, you may ask your colleagues to quiet down, close your office door, or even change work environments. Perhaps some of you knew in your academic life that the library was the best place for you to study or do a project, or you must have music playing in the background to help focus. So let's start with environment. Environment is when play happens in many different places, living rooms, bedrooms, parties. There is a possibility to prepare the environment beforehand and or provide structure for the play activity. The child will encounter the less chaotic and more enjoyable the play experience will be. So 3 points we have for environment: focus and attention, organization, and rules of play. So for focus and attention, provide a space that is clear of clutter. Looking at the meme on here, my room is not dirty, I just have everything on display like a museum. Well, we want to limit those distractions. Maybe you have a space in your house for playing with toys. It's easy to keep the TV on, but not everyone can filter out that background noise. Inattention and hyperactivity may already be heightened in your child, so lessening distractions is really key. Organization of the actual play product. Make sure the game has all of the pieces and the toy works. Maybe the batteries need to be changed, or the balloon or the ball needs to be blown up more. Frustration levels can become heightened if the toy isn't ready to go. Rules of play. Not rules of the actual game or the toy, but the house rules for playtime. Setting boundaries and limits provides structure during play and promotes independence for the child. Adaptations. I'm sure all of us have tried at least one time to put a toy or at least a piece of IKEA furniture together without the instructions. It doesn't always work. But I am telling you now that it is okay not to use the instructions that come with a board game or play with all of the pieces to a product. Create your own rules and make it fit the child's needs. My example for the 3 points on adaptations are going to be for the game Lucky Ducks. For those of you who do not know the game, it's a matching game. Each player gets a cardboard lily pad that corresponds to the color on the bottom of the ducks that are quacking and circling around the pond, which can be a little overstimulating. So let's look at 3 points: pieces, rule, and rules. Pieces. Do you really need to use all of the ducks in the Lucky Ducks game? No, just pick 2 colors instead of using all of them because it will shorten the game and create a 50-50 chance of getting the right color. Add more ducks when you think your child has a longer attention span and can handle higher odds of getting the wrong color duck. Rules. Do you have to have your own lily pad? Maybe you lay out all of the lily pads and on your turn you put the duck on the matching color lily pad. Sounds as the final point. Don't turn the game on. Take the batteries out. The ducks quacking and moving around the pond can be very distracting and somewhat annoying, so don't even turn it on. Playtime. Time is the key word here. All playtime does have to come to an end, so helping kids understand that before play starts will be helpful in the end. 3 points on this slide are going to be timers and clocks, transitions, and schedules. Timers can be used for kids as a visual countdown system, and maybe you have the timer go off twice. The first timer is the warning that it is time to start wrapping up, and the second means that playtime is over. A clock may be a good way to provide some independence for a child that can tell time and understand the concept of time management. At 2 p.m., I need to start cleaning up. Transitions can be a very difficult time for a child with special needs. The child may have been hyper-focusing on the toy they were playing with, and now the activity has to be completed, and it could cause a meltdown. Allow time for a break in between activities to mentally resolve the first task and prepare for the next. Schedules. Who doesn't love a schedule? It is always nice to know what is happening as an adult and as a child. It can be as simple or as detailed as needed for the child that will be using it, whatever works best for them. And finally, selecting actual play products that the child will be playing with. Does this toy cater to one of their sensory preferences, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or tactile? Will the child be able to access the toy independently and enjoy their interaction? And finally, beyond the obvious play value of the toy, are there ways you can take it farther out of the box to expand play? Teaching your child there are infinite ways to play and enjoy. On that note, we are going to dive into a selection of toys from PlayAbility and talk about their sensory benefits. Both Buddy Dog and Echo Elephant, who is on the next slide, are auditorily, tactily, and visually stimulating. What Lekotek staff and families really like about Buddy Dog is that he caters to a wide age range. His colors are not only great for visual processing with the white, black, and red features, he is gender neutral, and both Buddy and Echo have really friendly faces. One of the best features about Buddy is the sensory stimulation with the pull of the cord making him vibrate. He is a great size for most kids, making him a go-anywhere plush, sitting next to a child in a stroller or a wheelchair. Echo the elephant. There are many places to grab Buddy Dog or Echo the elephant on the leg, arm, nose, ear, and they are very lightweight. People who study face recognition know that there are two major elements that children focus on, and those are the eyes and mouth. Children who are on the autism spectrum are more willing to engage with a non-human face, and Buddy and Echo's faces are consistently happy, making them predictable. There are options for the sensory diet of the child with these two products. The vests can be removed to lessen the crinkle sound. The tail cord on Buddy does not have to be engaged so that the vibration sound does not come on. Buddy Dog and Echo the Elephant plush also have a puppet version. Puppets add an element of interaction through play and creates more of a sensory experience for children. By utilizing the puppets in kinesthetic activities, children with special needs are often better able to understand, focus, attend, and participate, and communicate. Benefits include the development of interaction, imaginary play, communication skills, critical thinking, and social-emotional learning. The puppet versions of Echo and Buddy do not include as many sensory features, but provide a new element of skill development with language and social interaction. The Shape Sensation products have many tactile features: raised rib outline on the shapes, smooth plush, and bumpy rubber. One of the features that Lekotek staff and families enjoy the most is the Velcro on the shapes. When a child is interacting with the shapes, they want to pull them apart, which gives them a bit of proprioceptive input to feel the pressure in their hands and arms as they disconnect the pieces. There is also an element of auditory feedback as they quickly or slowly pull the Velcro apart and hear that noise. Ribbit balls are in general a lot of fun. The bright colors, the crinkle noise making the ribs, the balls are lightweight. It comes in many sizes. Lekotek staff and families love the ribbit ball because it's so lightweight. This aspect of a ball provides a fail-free gross motor activity for kids of many ability levels. It doesn't take much effort to grasp it, toss it, kick it, but it still has the ability to cradle kiddos that when they lay on the ball and feel and hear the crinkle as they roll around. PlayAbility also made this ball without the crinkle for kids that may be sensitive to noise. Games in general are an important way to learn collaborative and cooperative play and to bring peers and family members together in a shared experience, which has its own profound benefits. One of the reasons PlayAbility promotes games is that games treat the family as well as the individual child. Games have the capability to reduce stress, get everyone laughing, promote bonding, and allow each member of the family to know and enjoy each other in a positive and rewarding way. For children with special needs, this is incredibly important because oftentimes siblings and parents are looking for ways to connect to the child that has special needs, and games should be on the top of everyone's list to do that effectively and enjoyably. You will notice that both of these games address a need within a specific disability. Communication and collaboration within a family is a huge factor for families that have a child who is deaf or hard of hearing. PlayAbility has taken that need and built a game around it. Families that have a child who is deaf or hard of hearing are at a higher risk of not communicating effectively as a family, which may mean that family is lacking in play. The whole picture matching games are catered to an audience of visual learners. Oftentimes, children with autism see the world in a different lens. These visual learners sometimes can't connect or collaborate as much as they would like with people who are viewing things outside of their perspective. This game takes that visual processing and makes it a sport. Isn't it nice to foster a spirit of independence and success for children with special needs for both of these games? Confidence and competence through play has a way of translating into other aspects of a child's life. Building self-esteem and mastery through play is one of the goals PlayAbility Toys and the More Than Play website were created for. The next slides will share some of Lekotek's play ideas and adaptations on PlayAbility Toys. Echo the Elephant, Buddy Dog, and their puppet counterparts. Some of our ideas are write a script or story about what Echo or Buddy did that day, and then tell the story using the puppets to hone language and literacy skills. Read a story and make Echo or Buddy puppets be a character from the story. Echo Elephant can trumpet or Buddy Dog can squeak every time a specific word is said in a story. Dress up Echo and Buddy in other doll clothes to practice fine motor skills like buttoning, zipping, tying. Get crafty and create your own Buddy or Echo puppet out of fabric, popsicle sticks, and other craft supplies. You can even play hide and seek with Echo or Buddy plush to encourage the understanding of object permanence and location, like over, under, behind, next to. Shape sensation play ideas match the shapes to objects in the environment, like a triangle ice cream cone, a circle moon. Mismatch shapes together with the Velcro and create silly names for them, like a crescengle, a crescent triangle, to promote language and creativity. Place the shapes on a piece of paper and have the child trace the shape with a pencil to practice fine motor skills. Create a pattern with the shapes to promote problem solving and sequencing skills. Add other objects into the pattern from around the house, like a toy car, to make it more challenging. Ribbit ball play ideas. Lay on your back and balance the ball with your feet in the air. Balance the ball on your palm with your hand up and arm stretch out, and even try and balance on your head. Outstretch arms and give it a big hug and squeeze to feel the ball and hear the crinkle. Play a version of Simon Says with the ribbit balls. A caregiver or the child can give directions on what to do with the ball. Kick with left foot, bounce twice, roll to a friend. Play a game of toss and catch, but try not to drop it. Count out loud how many times you were able to keep it up. Activities like this are great for kinesthetic learners as they get to move and practice math at the same time. Create a bigger challenge by counting only by twos. See It, Sign It games level 1 and 2. You could work with a partner during gameplay to help recall the signs and see it, sign it. Use the cards simply as flashcards instead of playing the actual game. Place the cards around the house with the object that it corresponds to for kids to collect on a scavenger hunt. Challenge players by placing cards on the wrong objects in the house to see if they catch it. Pre-select sign language cards in small groupings. After the child has learned a set, add in a couple more new cards to the selection that the child already knows to boost their confidence and give them the self-esteem they need to learn more words. The whole picture matching games on the farm and going places. Work together on one puzzle instead of having individual cards. Give every player a starter card to be placed on the board to help start the game and placement of the following pieces. Number the back of the cards as a hint to help kids place the cards on the board independently. Challenge kids by using the picture boards as a visual, but not as placement for the cards as traditionally played. Other ideas on utilization to expand or repeat the challenge of the product. By doing this, you are exploring other options to play, going beyond the rules, interacting in new and interesting ways with the product. For example, there is no reason you can't play a game of catch with Buddy Dog versus the ribbit ball. That very change can add an element of surprise, fun, and laughter to a game or toy that has become somewhat predictable. Mixing it up is a great way to re-engage a child into a play experience or expand your toys. Layering and learning. Manufacturers are layering senses in their play products, and one of the pioneers is PlayAbility, who really got into sensory before it was even a trend in the toy industry. Researchers are learning that sensory input has an effect on learning and that neural pathways are created in the brain when stimulated by sensory input. Now that the connection of sensory input and neural pathways has been made, we have found that is how kids learn. When you add a learning aspect or an educational aspect to a toy, the value has increased. By layering the senses, the learning will follow. The more layers, the more learning. And sensory is everywhere. Thank you for your participation in this webinar and your interest in toys and play and their ability to assist children with special needs. Toys and play may not be the only way for children of all abilities to develop skills and reach their potential, but they are perhaps the easiest and most enjoyable way for kids to reach their goals. The National Lekotek Center is proud to partner with organizations that realize the power of play and provide products that encourage kids to expand their possibilities. Organizations like PlayAbility that had a vision that began as a ball and rolled into an organization dedicated to discovering how to make play accessible to all children regardless of their abilities, and More Than Play, a website that celebrates those products and promotes toys and games that offer children and their families more. More laughs, more learning, more playing, more growing. We stand together dedicated to improving the lives of children of all abilities through play and want every child to engage with, experience, and enjoy the value of toys and play. Thank you for joining us.